Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I'm a cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues, both court-appointed and private, marriage counseling, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMV Counseling and Therapy Services at 301-325-1550. Also, our website address is lifecoachdanantalak.com. Today, I'm very excited to have on our podcast on season 2, episode number 7, a very special guest and author, Kristina Rienzi. Just like every of my past episodes, I will leave it up to the guests to properly introduce themselves, as no one can do a better job. Kristina, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. So I am, as you mentioned, Kristina Rienzi. I have a background in psychology and therapy as well on a master's level. Not as high level as Dr. Dan, but I'm working on it, guys. I'm working on it. So I am a positive psychology coach and best-selling author of both fiction and nonfiction. And my life has really been dedicated to psychology, coaching, leadership, and writing to inspire and empower others.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for the quick but efficient introduction. So what brought you to write this book, and what is the title of the book?
Sure. The title of my book, which is always a struggle for authors, we want to get it right. It's called 5 Happy Choices. And what brought me to write this book was really all about the COVID-19 pandemic. I have been an author in fiction for years. I have written thrillers, which are so exciting and really take you away to escape, right? And they've also been kind of my cathartic way of dealing with life, right? Just knowing that writing is kind of my therapy and the way that I get through things. And in addition to other things like coaching and just being in the psychology world, right? But so 5 Happy Choices was really a culmination of me deciding when the COVID-19 pandemic hit that I wanted to work on myself a little bit more. I had already become a certified professional coach, and I wanted to take it to the next level and really start researching and learning about more positive psychology-based happiness, well-being. And so I enrolled in the Certificate of Happiness Studies, which is run by Tal Ben-Shahar, who is a top positive psychology professor at Harvard. And he created this certificate program. So I thought, great, let me learn all about happiness, right? Took that class. I also enrolled in some other courses, and I just really wanted to learn about how do we get ourselves to a state of overall well-being and focusing on joy and a sense of meaning and purpose in our life, which I equate to happiness, not just being a feeling, but being a state of being, not just a state of mind. And that is part of it, right? There's so many levels. But I wanted to take that information that I learned, pull out some nuggets that were really helpful for me and that I thought would be helpful for others who may be feeling stuck, unhappy, and just in a situation where they're not living the way they want to be living, happier and in the best, everyone says best life, but really living your best version of life, your happiest life. And so that's what this book is. This book is about a simple way to a happier life, just some simple things that can be done so that you can get yourself feeling better. And the more you do that, it becomes a habit and you feel better more. And this is what's worked for me, and I wanted to share.
Beautiful. Now, what do you find it to be easier to write, nonfiction or fiction?
That's a great question. Nonfiction. And I think it's because it's just who I am. It's just my natural state. The way that I have always, approached life has been from an education learning standpoint. I've written all my life, both fiction and nonfiction. And I find fiction more challenging for me, quite honestly, because it is my hobby. It is a profession, but it's also a passion in a different way than nonfiction. Nonfiction is something that just comes natural to me. It's also something that is like a passion of the heart for me. And so when I'm writing it, I just feel like it's flowing and it's meant to be. It's just, for me, easier. Now, neither writing is easy. I don't think for any writer, no matter how great you are at it. But for me, my default in nonfiction is easy. Fiction, I work really, really hard on. And I'm proud of the work I've done, but it doesn't come as easily to me.
It requires more creativity because this is a fiction world that you don't see on a day-to-day. Like, for example, if you look at all the other book about fiction, you have to be more creative than something like happiness. You live happy. It's something that you describe your own experience and share with the world. But when it comes to fiction, something completely different, which I agree, it's a bit more difficult.
It's different. You know why? And this isn't for me specifically, I'm left-brained. I know we use our right brain too, but I primarily activate my left brain. So in order for me to write fiction, what do I have to do? I have to activate my right brain. In order to do that, I have to write at times that I'm like tired, like when I get up in the morning, my editor isn't on and my left brain is on. So I write my fiction either when I'm like first wake up or late at night. And then when I'm editing, I have to use my left brain for that. So I try to maximize my brain to do what I do best. And by the way, we're all creative. We have it in us. It's just what is our default, what is easiest for us. And for me, expressing myself through nonfiction is not only easier, but it feels like it's what I'm supposed to be doing. And so it comes out of me so much quicker. Writing fiction takes me time. I do eventually get the book done and I love it, but it's just it's a completely different process for me.
Oh, I agree with you. I tried the fiction and I just said, forget it. Let's go with nonfiction.
Right.
When it came to you studying the positive psychology, something was probably missing in your life, Kristina, that prompted you to study it. So is there something that you want to be able to share with the listeners about your past that you wanted to be able to, that prompted you to really write about it and study it?
Sure. So all my life, I've been interested in psychology. The two things I wanted to be when I grew up were a psychologist and an author. And here I am, right? So I went to school for psychology. I got my master's in counseling and I did that for years. And then I switched over into the business world and started doing leadership and employment work. And that's, I decided to get that into that arm of it. And coaching, which as I don't know if everybody knows, but coaching really takes you from functional to optimal performance. And that's when positive psychology came about. I feel like it was like 1998 when it really became a profession. Not a lot of people knew about it. We knew a lot about psychology from the standpoint of taking you from dysfunction to function. And that's the psychology I was trained in, right? Behavioral psychology. I was trained in cognitive behavioral as well. And so positive was like a whole new world for me. And what prompted me to kind of take it to the next level was really through absolutely something has to trigger it, right? It just doesn't come out of nowhere. It's living within you. I had a loss. I lost my mom unexpectedly at a younger age. And it was quick and we were very close and I'm an only child. And so I went through a deep sense of grief for a long period of time. And that going through that, even all the knowledge in the world cannot, just quickly get you through that. You have to go through that, right? And so I changed as a human and I was starting to change in a way that I wasn't happy with. And I wasn't happy in general, but I wasn't happy with who I was becoming. And I decided, you know what? On the outside, and this is the thing, by the way, guys, you don't always know what's going on inside of people, right? Like, I mean, you say that all the time. I looked fine. I was smiling. I was going to work. I was writing my books. I was showing up for life. I was just on the outside. It was all together. On the inside, I was dying. So I really had made a decision. I'm going to get into the coaching stuff and I'm going to work on happiness. And I'm going to find out about this happiness thing. And what I did was I embarked on a 2-year-long journey of figuring out what was going on with me, figuring out how what I wanted to do going forward, making that clarity of choices of who do I want to be in the future and what kind of life do I want to live? How do I want to feel? How do I want to show up in life? And then the parts that there was a gap, I worked on that and I still work on that. So it was one of those things where I just kind of said no more. And I talk about this in 5 Happy Choices, that it was almost like I was living in denial that everything was fine. And it actually was my husband we trust the people closest to us to tell us the truth. And sometimes we don't want to hear it. And he had said to me, like, you are not living. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm not living? I'm getting up, I'm putting lipstick on in my shoes, I'm dressing up, I'm going to work. What do you mean? I'm so productive. I'm getting all these things done. No, I wasn't living my life. Like from the standpoint of being happy and living from a place of purpose, I was just going through the motions. And that wasn't living. That was unconscious living. So yeah, it was a choice and it was work, but I wanted to take what I learned and share it simply with others. Cause I think, it is quite simple.
So if you want to summarize the book into the 5 easy steps, what would you suggest to people who are going through a difficult time, either grievance or who are dealing with mental illness, bipolar or whatever else? What would you recommend them how to get started through this journey of being more happy? being more mindful in the moment instead of always dragging the past into the present, what would be the best step for you to start?
Yeah, so that's a great question because everyone's so different and we all resonate with different things. But I think the first step in anything, right, is to acknowledge that you're not happy. And it seems easy, but it's not always so easy. We always think, well, everything's fine. Fine isn't happy, right? So what does happy look like? What is happiness to you? Is it there for you or not? And I think the way I identified it was, for me, it's writing. So for example, if you're doing something, that time is flying by and you notice, wow, 3 hours went by and I was playing basketball, or I was, drawing, or I was writing, whatever that thing was, that's what it feels like. I know that it sounds silly, but we can forget what happy feels like. Mm-hmm. That's what happy feels like. That joy, that sense of purpose, you're doing something you love. That's the feeling we're going for. And I think the first step is to say, I'm not there. I am not happy. And once you identify that you're not happy, you can choose to do the things that bring you joy. This doesn't create like an instant happy person in you. And by the way, all the emotions are valid. Feeling sad, feeling anger, feeling, fear, having all of these things that everybody calls negative emotions. They're valid and we should feel them. It's getting stuck in those emotions and being unable to move forward in life. That's the issue. So recognizing and saying, I'm not happy. And that's what I did. It was like, I am not happy. What can I do? What brings me joy? And it was little by little. I started doing things that bring you joy. And you mentioned presence and mindfulness and meditation. That is one of the 5 happy choices. By the way, there are a lot of things you can do to feel happy. The ones I chose were backed by science, by scientific research and evidence. But something like being present in the moment, it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to sit and meditate for 5 hours. Like I can barely meditate because my brain is going 24/7. What it's about is saying, drop everything, put your phone down, turn the TV off, be present. If a friend is having a conversation with you, it's as simple as being there. I call it being there. Like just be there with them, listen, respond, have a conversation. Nothing around you exists. It's you and that person. It's as simple as that. It could be as simple as driving down the road. And I would do this all the time. I would like, quote unquote, meditate on my drive, which sounds dangerous, right? But it isn't. I would feel the steering wheel. I'd feel my breath. I would notice everything around me. It's about living in the moment. It isn't something that, it's going to happen overnight, but you just start with the little things. And I will tell you, being present in the moment, even if it's for, 2 minutes, it absolutely shifts the way that you start to look at life. And it's like, this is what life is about, being here now.
Well, would you agree? I had actually an interview with another psychotherapist, and he did mention that happiness is not sustainable, which means we will have ups and downs like an EKG. But what are the triggers that when you feel down, you want to go back into the high? So what are that you can bring? So you have to bring good memories into the present. But then again, you do not want to go and stay too long in a bad past and then start feeling more depressed. So what are other strategies that you would recommend?
Yes. So in my book, 5 Happy Choices, we talk about being present, but I also talk about being grateful, simply saying something like, thank you. Thank you. Gratitude is a huge choice. And it's feeling it. Like for example, something silly, like I'm thankful my water was shut off this morning because they're a water main break. Like this happens, this kind of stuff happens. Was I annoyed? Absolutely. I was like, oh man, my water's off. And you just kind of go through that. And then when it came on, I was grateful for that. But my point is, I think that you can choose, you feel the feelings because you cannot be happy all the time. It's not realistic. And you acknowledge it. And you give credit to that. And if you can give credit to the negative, you can be grateful and you can give credit to the positive. So absolutely choosing to have gratitude is a very simple way to be happy. Another way to feel happy in a moment is kindness. That's another one of the choices I talk about. Being kind to another person, it not only creates a connection, which increases happiness as well, another secret, but it makes you feel good. It makes them feel good. It's like a ripple effect. So these simple little things, and by the way, kindness doesn't have to be, something elaborate. It could be a text message. I do this all the time because I need to feel good. I send a text to a friend. How are you? I'm thinking of you. I miss you, or great job on that, whatever happens. So it's an action step. basically. What you're doing is you're realizing you're in a place that is not where you want to be. You're not happy. You're not feeling good. You acknowledge that, you accept that because it's valid and it means something. And then you make a choice to step out of it. And that choice could be doing something kind. It could be saying, thank you that my water came back on for me. It could be being present in the moment. And there are a myriad of other things that you could do to pull yourself out of that temporary funk that you're in.
Beautiful. So if you look at happiness being different for different personality types. So type A loves to be in control. And as you know, we cannot control happiness. And so when things come into their life that they cannot really fix or find solution for, how can these people find happiness? Or there's no hope for them?
There's hope, because I'm one of those people. Yeah. I am type A all the way. And I have a big issue with control, and I know better, but it's there. And and I think that what is the opposite of control? Surrender, right? Let it go. Just like Elsa says in Frozen, but you let it go. And it sounds so hard to do. It's not that hard to do. I literally sometimes have to say, it's out of your hands. Let it go. What will be, will be. And a lot of times I'll find myself caught in a loop of control. Like I'm trying to control this. Especially I have a small child and I'm trying to control everything. It's like, just let it go. Let it be, let it go. I have to say those words and know that I'm surrendering. And in my head, I say, I'm going to let it be. And whatever happens, I'll handle it. I will handle it. And, I do believe that whatever's happening in your life, you're where you need to be. And if it's something, that's going on that you're not so happy about, maybe there's a lesson in it. Maybe there's a growth opportunity for you in it. Maybe if something happens that you're not so happy about, and it doesn't bring you happiness, you grow from it. I say this because that's what happened to me when I lost my mom, and I was in this terrible place and all of these things, and I thought the world was coming to an end, and I was in a negative spiral of anxiety and fear and depression and just not moving forward. Even on the outside, I looked like I was. It turned me into a better person, a happier life. I really believe that. It was work, but it got me there. And I think we don't see that when we're in it, but I will tell you, there is hope, and that is possible. So absolutely, you have to surrender. You have to just go. And you know what? As hard as it sounds, like, how could I let it go? I have to control X, Y, Z. The truth is, you really have no control over anything anyway. You really don't. And if you really accept that in life, you'll know once you let something go and it's truly gone, and you say, leave it to the universe, leave it to God, leave it to whoever the higher power is, if there is a higher power, or leave it to whatever will be, right? That whatever words work for you. There is such relief in that. And there is such peace. And it really feels good. It feels good.
Especially that, a lot of people carry the weight of the world on their shoulder. And you make a very good point, Kristina. When you just learn to let it go, that's it. The weight is off of your shoulder. And now you feel that you can breathe. You don't feel suffocated anymore. And that's actually something really hard for many to do. But if they don't do it, how are they going to be able to ever find happiness?
Absolutely. And you know what? What does it hurt to try? This is what I say. You don't want to do it. You think it's too difficult. How difficult is it to carry the worry, to carry the stress, to carry the anxiety? That's heavy. That is heavier, because I've done it. I have done it. And I still struggle with that because I'm human, and because, I'm not perfect and never will be. I'm a work in progress always. And so, yeah, how heavy is that? But when you let it go, even if it's uncomfortable, just try it. Just try it and see how you feel. And you may find that it's uncomfortable at first, because anything you do differently, the first time is uncomfortable. But if you stick with it and you just continue down that path of, you know what, I'm going to do the best I can. By the way, let's not just give up on life, right? Let's do the best we can. Let's put our best foot forward. Let's just be the best people we can be, and, deal with the fact that we are human and we're going to make mistakes and not have perfect days, right? But let's also know that we really don't have control over the outcome, no matter what we do. We could do everything right. And I always say this, every single thing right, all your life, perfect, and something could fall apart, because that is the way it goes. Like, we don't have control. So you do the best you can. And I truly believe everybody out there is doing the very best they can with what they know and with what they have. And you just, surrender to what will be, and let go of that weight on your shoulder. It is such a gift of peace. And until you give that gift of peace to yourself, you don't know how special it is. But once you do it, get used to doing it. Practice it as much as you can.
Practice makes perfect, right?
Absolutely. And it is so true. It is true. And there's research behind that, by the way.
Absolutely. So in your practice, Kristina, when you have people coming to you and they have like either bipolar disorders or they have depression, anxiety, etc., do you treat them for that first before you can teach them happiness? Or for them, this is a big leap from what they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis to starting to learn how to meditate or how to learn to be happy, how to learn to let go. So where's the transition that you create kind of like something smooth? Because sometimes it can be overwhelming for them to say, well, look, I'm happy 1 minute, I'm sad the other, I'm going through depression, I'm taking medication, I'm doing this and this and that. So what is the best suggestion for them, especially for those dealing with mental illness?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because I know a lot of people who are dealing with mental illness, and I've, been in situations for sure for years where anxiety has taken me over, like really taken me over, even though, you go to school for this stuff, you're not exempt from it, right? So anyone who's really dealing with a true mental illness, I technically will refer to a psychologist that is dealing with that kind of treatment. For me, I'm focusing on, that next step from function to optimal performance versus like where if you're in a place where you're not unable to function in your daily activities and you're just trying to get by, I really would refer them out to a mental health professional that's good for them. But for me, I'm dealing with, getting you from a functional to optimal performance and the positive psychology piece. And you're absolutely right. Even though you may be someone who is struggling with severe mental health issues, and you may be getting treated for that, like you said, with medication, with therapies, and that I hope you are, if you do have struggle with these, because that is really important to get help. You can still engage in these activities, even if it's something simple as saying thank you. The power of a thank you is so powerful. And I don't even mean to tell other people thank you. I mean, just thanking, again, whatever, the universe, the room, the people for fixing your air conditioning, whatever it may be, the power of I am grateful for. Thank you for my health. Thank you for I can walk. Thank you, I can see. Thank you, anything like that. A simple thank you for the air I breathe. Thank you for my life, and meaning it and feeling it. Even a simple thank you can just boost you. It boosts your mood. And thank you is all it takes for gratitude. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. And all of us, or I would say, the majority of us can easily say thank you and feel gratitude. We are all struggling with something, and many are struggling with mental health. And there is a stigma around it that all my life I haven't understood. I really just feel like, mental health and physical health, like let's talk about this stuff. You have a heart problem, and you have, people recognize that. If you have a problem with anxiety or depression, we need to recognize this. They're real issues people struggle with so much. And I worked with people with chronic mental illness for many years, and they're struggling, and so I would say for those guys, that I might not be dealing with directly or not know if I am, the littlest, simplest thing you can do to feel joy, even if it's, like I said, a thank you, a gratitude, very easy to practice, right? If you can be grateful for anything, someone who loves you, someone you love, the sun, you can be grateful for the weather. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Start putting that gratitude into practice, because that does give you a boost and you feel good. And no matter what's going on, you can always have a grateful heart.
Very, very deep, actually. And if we go to the point that you said about those dealing with physical illness, let's say a cancer or anything that doesn't allow them to be able to take advantage of the outside, go for walks, which we take this for granted. How in their state of mind, as you know, body and mind are interconnected.
Completely.
How can you separate that part when you are physically sick, but yet you are appreciating of the rest of the world? It's very hard mentally.
It's very hard.
So how can you tell people who are dealing with that? Then they'll just respond to you, said, Kristina, you don't know what I'm going through. I'm the one who's sick. You're not. So it's easier for you to say that.
Totally. It is.
It is.
And you're absolutely right. And you know what I say is empathy. We have to have empathy. I am not in here. We're not all in each other's shoes. All we know is that we are human and have emotions. And I think the emotions we have look a lot like the emotions someone else has. So to connect with somebody is about empathy. And you've got to meet them where they are, feel what they're feeling, and be there for them. And that's number one. I think so. For me, I agree with you 100%. I am not in someone else's life. I'm in my life. And so the things that make me frustrated and upset and I worry about look different than somebody else. Right. And so I could never take that away from them. Everything is relative. And so the empathy is really important, to have empathy for each other. And also for them to have empathy for themselves and say, like, you guys, you're going through a lot. And there's an element of self-compassion and self-love that is so important, that, you know what, if you're not feeling happy every day and you don't feel grateful and you're angry, that's okay. That's where empathy comes in. No one is saying to live, your best life, you have to be happy all the time.
Yeah.
That is not it. It's really about connecting with yourself and making choices about what serves you. And maybe that what serves you is to be angry about what you're going through right now, because that's valid. And if we don't validate that, then we're dismissing what somebody might be going through. So I think in those cases, one of my 5 happy choices is authenticity. I think it's about authenticity. I think it's about being real with yourself and what you're going through and being okay with that and saying, I am not happy right now. And I don't want to be. I am upset and I have a right to be upset. And this isn't fair. And this is frustrating. And you know what? Give yourself that. Be authentic to who you are. Speak your truth and, choose that. And I will tell you, I have many times chosen anger, chosen sadness, chosen those things because they were appropriate. And I am not going to deny that those feelings, they're real and they're valid. And in order to grow to a place where happiness can be a choice for you that you go to freely, you've got to accept your full range of emotions as a human being. And you have to also accept the fact that reality sometimes is really difficult, and that's okay. That's real. So I think it's about honoring what you're going through and accepting that, and just, and having empathy for yourself, really, really giving yourself that self-compassion that you so deserve, that you're going through something right now, and it's okay.
Well, you make actually a very good point, Kristina, but there's only also something to really take into consideration, which is you're allowed to not feel good or be sad or angry, but don't let it linger for too long. Because the thing is, there was a metaphor that I read on the internet, and they said, like, if let's say you hold a bucket of water that weighs 5 pounds, okay, and you hold it with your shoulder, with your arm straight, the 5 pounds will feel nothing for the first 5 minutes. But then if you continue holding it, that 5 pounds will start feeling, you're going to tingling in your shoulder, you're going to start
definitely.
After that, after like an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, that 5 pounds didn't change in weight, but holding it for made it feel like this 5 pounds became 50 pounds or 100 pounds. So it's about how long you hold that negative and when to let it go. And a lot of people tend to stay in their misery, and they feel that, oh, it's okay to be sad, which is completely, I agree with that. But for how long do you continue getting sad?
Yeah, that's a great point, because you're absolutely right. In my coach training, we learned one of the things that I went to coaching school for was energy coaching. It was all about this, moving yourself from a place of anger up to a place of acceptance. And then you're eventually going to move yourself up to joy. And I think it's baby steps. So you take, you take that anger and that, that feeling of helplessness and hopelessness, and you need to move it to a level where you're able to kind of, it's steps, it's baby steps, but you maybe go to a place of rationalization where you're rationalizing some things and you're letting some of the anger go, but now it becomes a logic. You're getting that into your head about, where your life is going. And then you move up to another level where you're able to, be able to accept and choose to move forward through that. It's going through these, little by little. It doesn't happen where you go from I'm angry to I'm happy. It's a little bit of letting go. It's letting go a little bit of the anger and saying, okay, I've had my time being mad and sad. And I do this too. I choose to pull myself out. I've gotten it out. I vented. I did whatever. I can't live here. I don't root myself here. So now I'm going to make one step in a different direction, and I'm going to pull myself out. Maybe I distract myself with something and I kind of get my head in the game now. I get out of the emotion of it and I go to the head. I go from my heart to my head. And because once you're in a logic standpoint, your emotions are kind of at this point, you're shutting down your emotions a little bit. You're more in your head. You pull yourself into your head to get yourself out. And then, from there, I do make choices. I make choices as to what I'm going to view. Maybe I look at a picture of something that brings me joy. Like I make choices just to kind of pull me out, because you're absolutely right. Staying there too long is a negative impact on your health. And over years and years, it will actually cause disease. And it's catabolic. It's catabolic energy. It's negative energy that breaks down the cells in your body, and it breaks down, it causes diseases. Anabolic energy, which grows the cells in your body and is positive energy, is actually going to make you healthy and happier. So it's moving from that catabolic energy to the anabolic energy. And you do that in baby steps. But yes, you have to recognize, like, I've been here a long time. Like I need to take action. Let me get up, let me walk around, let me go, get out of my heart and into my head. Let me just, move that energy up, because the longer we stay, and I've been there too, where I've stayed too long, it is destructive. It's self-destructive. So that's a great point you bring up.
Well, thank you. So how can our listeners find you, Kristina, or even seek for your support or for your assistance?
Sure. You can find me on KristinaRienzi.com. That's where everything is. I have, a newsletter I send out every other week. I have a blog. I'm on social media, Instagram and Facebook. And my book, 5 Happy Choices, The Simple Way to a Happier Life, is out in the marketplace right now for pre-order on Amazon. But you can absolutely just go right to my website, send me an email, and we can connect.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, that is all the time that we have for today's episode. I do appreciate you, Kristina, for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to join us. Thank you again for participating and inspiring our many listeners with your incredible story. Now, we hope you have all enjoyed today's episode. I'm very excited about the many upcoming guests that we have scheduled for season 2 of the Happiness Journey podcast, filled with inspirational stories just like the one you listened to today. Now, here are a few concluding words of wisdom. Life is like a camera. Focus on what's important. Capture the good times, develop from the negative, and if things do not work out like expected, take another shot. And just like Wayne Gretzky, which is the famous Canadian hockey player, said, you will miss 100% of all the shots that you don't take. Never hesitate pursuing your goals and dreams, as they are yours. Ignore the naysayers and go for the gold. Despite the many hurdles you will face, success is right around the corner. Seek it and you shall find it. My name is Dr. Dan Amzalang, and you may all keep pursuing your amazing journey in life.